I really liked the pedaling adventures in 2019's Knights and Bikes. It was some of my favorite experiences of the past year in gaming. So when I found out there was going to be a game based entirely around this bicycling experience, I was intrigued and excited. But was it worth it? Well, it depends if you can get past the camera angle. Why would the camera angle be a problem, you ask? Have you heard about Lonely Mountains Downhill? This is a beautifully simple game. Everything about its design, production, and play has a minimalist vibe I really gelled with. The UI is clean, the score is not full of Hans Zimmer horns or peaking violin crescendos, just the sound of nature. The roaring water, the chirping birds, the whipping wind. The low poly art style is distilled and colorful, contrasting the muddied bike path to the dense coniferous to the sweeping sandstone cliffs. And the game itself is just a downhill bike ride. You're a mountain biker. You can brake, you can sprint. But besides that, you just have to get from one checkpoint to another. That is obviously more difficult than it sounds, as getting to the next checkpoint involves understanding the twists and turns of the path, how quickly you can cover that straight pass, how tall a drop can be before its landing would break you in your bike's suspension. Of course, as you progress, the speed and efficiency of your routes is where Lonely Mountains' details and nuances shine. After completing an initial run of a mountain path with no time pressure or constraints really whatsoever, you unlock challenges. Challenges are broken down into the amount of times you can crash during a course, or the speed of your run of it. In the beginning, I tried to complete these trials simultaneously so I could move on to the theoretically greener pastures. But over the course of my time with Lonely Mountains, I realized that aiming for the fastest run often meant sacrificing your caution and carefulness. Courses become less of maintaining continuity, but maximizing speeds between each checkpoint. Because when you crash, you reset to your closest checkpoint, not to the start of the map. For speed challenges, Lonely Mountains became a small game of path exploration and checkpoint management. For crashes, that is where you could take as long and be as careful as you like, because you're not rewarded by how fast you complete it, but just not by messing up too many times. They both require you to play different and approach the mountain trail differently. I applaud the nuanced ingenuity of being able to extract so much time and content out of really so few paths. There's only 16 trails in total, 4 to each of the 4 mountains. I feel like this is a decent amount, and the use of challenges, the different bikes, finding secret resting points really make the most of how each of these trails and mountains are designed. Over the 6 hours of play of Lonely Mountains, I unlocked all the mountains, toured the majority of the trails. Towards the end, however, I was having less and less fun. There is something about this game that feels initially so good, but starts to wane the more you progress. I think a part of that has to do with the crawling progression of unlocking new bike parts to unlock new bikes. I think another part has to do with this looping design. You unlock a trail, play it 5 times, unlock challenges, and move on to the next trail, not really needing to take part in the older trail unless you get a new bike, but that could be so many trails away, but by the time you get it, do you really want to go back? Whether you like a particular trail design immediately impacts your enjoyment and your progression. I think another part of why I was starting to have less fun is sometimes the awkward or unpredictable physics and physicality. Sometimes just hitting the corner of a bridge railing can send you all the way back to the last checkpoint. Next, you can graze a giant boulder and emerge unscathed and keep pedaling away you go. There was too much guesswork sometimes as to whether a collision or a sharp turn was going to turn out to be successful or not. But primarily for me, I think Lonely Mountains is held back from awkward isometric camera angles. I realized this more and more when I started to discover what part of the mountain trails were actually the most enjoyable to me. Some parts of Lonely Mountain dropped the viewing angle to almost a very close over-the-shoulder vantage point. Other times, the design of the trail lets you see the next 3 or 4 turns, because maybe there's an altitude difference or paths are stacked on top of one another. These are the most fun and awesome moments of the game for me, because you get a feeling of where you are and where you need to go. You can see your challenge ahead and your brain starts whirling around how you're going to overcome. But this happens probably about 40% of your time with Lonely Mountains. The other 60%, you can't see more than a few feet ahead of you. Your success relies less on biking on the seat of your pants, but either caution or rote memorization after countless failures. The game becomes less about adaptability and flexibility and more about trying to surprise you and trick you. Haha, you didn't know about those 2 sharp sequential turns? Shame on you. Haha, didn't know that we were going to find trees there? Sucks to suck, brah. Hampering the player's view hampers the player's fun. I think I can empathize where sometimes this limited viewing angle can be exciting, but oftentimes it doesn't come across that way. It comes across as a hindrance rather than a challenge. So, all of this leads to a score, or a rating, or a recommendation, and I'm in a difficult position to evaluate because this is one of the few games I played on the Xbox 4 PC Game Pass, and holy frick, did I have so many technical issues with this game not launching for me, with the Xbox Game Pass altogether, to the point where actually I was going to make this a joke review that was actually not going to be a review about Lonely Mountains, but a review about Xbox 4 PC. But, after enough finagling, I finally managed to, sit down and play, I think, enough hours with this game. So, after all of my trials and tribulations, would I pay more than $20 for this on Steam, which is what it's currently at here up in the Great White North of Canada? I wouldn't. There's fun to be had here, but I'd wait and get Lonely Mountains Downhill on sale. So it gets a quest marker, neutral, positive if score. Positive if this game sounds at all tantalizing or exciting to you, man, get it. Neutral, because I don't think you should be paying full price for it. I had fun for the first few hours, but I think I've now had my fun. I've had my fill of it. If none of my concerns sound at all problematic to you, go out and get it, man. I think you'll have fun. So yeah, Lonely Mountains has held back to me. It scratched that itch that Knights and Bikes started out last autumn. But for me, I'm going to be revisiting Penfurzy Island's careless pedaling and carefree environments much more than the frustrations of Lonely Mountain's downhill mountain trails.